Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast. Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmati Bhakti Swaminiti Name.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the 117th, I think, episode of the Welsh Yogi Podcast. Today, we've got a guest we've never had on the podcast before. Kim.
Bhaktin Kim.
Bhaktin Kim. Hari Bol. Let me just adjust that.
I remember your first program, I think, in Church Street.
Uh-huh.
I think you were the only guest, and tyaktvā was given the talk.
Yeah.
And that must have been, how many years ago was that?
10, 11, something
11 years ago.
like that, yeah. It's been a while.
What have you learned since then? Any major life lessons? How do you think you've grown as a person since?
It was interesting, like coming to the temple for the first time. I knew there was something more to life. I was just living in the valleys and
From Caerphilly, right?
from Caerphilly, and going through the very Caerphilly lifestyle. And by the time 16, 17, I was just completely worn out. Just couldn't do it anymore.
They start young in Caerphilly, didn't they?
Yeah, it's like 12, 13. And then by that time it's like, whoa, I'm done. So we didn't know anything about spirituality, and I'd never heard of we knew God, but no one, it was all kind of a bit of a joke. So I remember watching this program on TV, and it was more kind of about ghostly life. And so I was like, oh, wow, maybe I could learn to talk to spirits, Wow. So I started going on this quest, how do I talk to spirits? And I was going around in Caerphilly. There was this witch shop, and I went in. I was like, is there people I can talk to? Is there a community? And they were like, yeah, there's a coven. You can meet this coven.
No way, Kim, I didn't know this.
Is that what they call
You
it?
actually
coven?
are a witch.
Well, no, I didn't go. So
Wasn't that in your astrology?
Yeah,
did your
she
astrology?
said there's some kind of
Mystical, white,
yeah,
magic.
there's a strong pull to connection with the occulty kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway, so I left my contact details for this coven to contact me, and they just never heard back. So I was studying in Cardiff. I was done with Caerphilly. I thought, I'm not studying in Caerphilly now. I'm going to go to Cardiff, and bumped into the monks a few times, but it was kind of just tunnel vision. I'm not talking to these guys. What do they want?
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And I ended up going to a few different groups, and nothing, it was okay, but nothing too interesting. And just one day, just saw this cafe, and I never went out anywhere. And I just thought, I really need to go in that cafe. I just went in, Shantarupa, it's behind the counter, serving quesadillas. What's a quesadilla? Okay, I'll have it. I just sat there, and I was just like, what is this place? It's really amazing. I don't know what it is, but okay.
It was on Cruis Road.
It was Church Street.
Church Street, okay.
In Cardiff. And
We had a good menu in that place. We had halloumi pies and
Yeah, I've heard things about that.
it was a himsa paneer burgers and stuff, I think. Or
we
something
had
like
Radhi, Indra, and Ayodhyapati in the kitchen.
Yeah,
It was such an
Indra.
amazing, really cool. I was saying earlier, it was amazing to have the cafe, the temple, and the kitchen all in one place. That was the hub of the devotees. Everyone was just in and out. And yeah, and then I remember just seeing, I think it was Dali, he was eating lunch, and I was like, right, that's a monk. I need to go and see what's going on. So I was like, do you do programs? Can I have a flyer? And he was shocked, because he just sat there trying to eat his lunch. And and then I just went to a program, and just immediately I knew, okay, this is the path. The other ones, okay, they didn't click, but I didn't know what it was. I'd never read anything, but I knew it was the path I wanted to follow.
It's a special kind of person that just comes to one program. It's because we were quite basic there as well. I think we probably had Gornitai, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we took Shiva Ramaraj program there once, and it was sat underneath where there's a leak and stuff, and it was just a nightmare. So that's where this Kṛṣṇa building is going to be interesting, because for years in Cardiff, we've never been able to invest any money on the aesthetic, really. So, I think it speaks to your sincerity and your sincere search for spiritual life that you managed to get the substance. Like, I'm sure you were the only guest in my memory. Like,
it was very even though, you know, aesthetically it wasn't.
was giving the talk. That's rare. You know?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
There's something very mystical about it, though. You know, excluding the externals of what's happening. It's just, you know, such a raw experience. It, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter about, you know, how the temple looks or that kind of thing. It's just such amazing devotees, you know, such people really practicing, and you can feel that when you go somewhere. And at the time there was no. I remember sitting down after the first program, and I didn't know the like girls were around, you know, because there was Shantarupa and Megan, and Megan was super shy, so I was like chatting, and I was like, so are there any girls? And are there any girls in the temple? And she was like, me. I was like, oh wow, a girl. Okay, cool, right. That's a thing that could happen. Okay, yeah, but the externals are another thing, but the quality of the devotees is the main essence, I think.
That's a really nice
personally.
Point. And what about so now you are like in charge of our little farm project, which is how many acres?
3.5.
3.5 acres. What did Pancharatrapu say yesterday? That 1 acre can feed 20 people?
Yeah.
Something like that. So when did your relationship start with nature, growing and, you know, because it's something I know nothing. We went the other day and I just didn't, you know,
It was amazing.
I've never planted something in my life. I realized.
Got into it though, it's nice.
Yeah, I fed my tadpoles.
And you mentioned that actually in the last podcast, you know, Pajanya, and you mentioned, you know, we don't even know how to grow a potato. And then we were actually going and planting potatoes on the farm.
Yeah, I was splitting up my little broccolis.
Feeding the tadpoles.
Yeah. So when I just had contact with the temple, and it was like, you know, that we all have when we first come, this mystical experience, and you're like head over heels. And I had already planned to travel, so I had this like battle of, okay, I want to be with these devotees, but this desire was so strong.
How old are you? How old are you?
17.
17.
Wow.
Can I go up? So we used to have like a bathroom that you just have. It was both men and women, wasn't it? I remember coming out of there. I was a monk at the time. We came out there and Kim's getting ready for a night out on the town.
In Church Street.
Yeah.
That wasn't the one where there was a shower rail around the toilet.
That was in the ashram.
Okay.
I try to blank out some of these memories because I can't think about these too much, you know. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, so I had this battle, and, you know, I spoke to Taraknath about it a lot, and obviously he's saying, you know, you can move into the ashram, but I decided to travel, and I was going to different temples along the way, and, you know, trying to the best of my ability without association to keep, you know, the practice as best as I could. And I ended up going to quite a lot of farm communities along the way, and yeah, just learning like little bits, different techniques, like biodynamic growing, how you grow in accordance to the lunar cycle, and just people permaculture growing. And then I came back moving to the temple and kind of tried to give that my all. But there was a little thing of just, okay, I need to start growing. So I don't know if you remember, I tried this like ridiculous thing in the back of Kṛṣṇa. We had that little concrete garden. I just found a pallet and I filled it with soil, and I like got all these plants, and I tried to make this tiny little garden there. And when I did move out of the temple, I moved on to like an eco community, and I went to a few different places and just spent a few years learning how to grow, learning what's seasonal, how to work with the seasons. And and I just feel really blessed actually that, like, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but me and Gopigita, she took me to go and see Gauranatai, that we've just had come over from India. And I'd had a little bit of distance from the temple, and I just looked at them and I was like, wow, you know, I don't think I'm going to be able to serve them, but I would love to be able to serve Gauranatai. Like, they're just so beautiful. And then, a few weeks later, we got this farm project, and the operatives like, okay, they've said, okay, if you want to, do you really want to? Here's this opportunity. You're going to take it or not? So, trying my best to take that opportunity and run with it.
Yeah, well, it's going amazingly, I think. We went all down there the other day, wasn't it? And it was like I think it was all the monks, all the boys, the ashram devotees, they just, I think because they just done like a heavy, like, you know, a lot of traveling, a lot of distributing books. We had an amazing weekend in Hungary, but the reports back were, it was very good for everyone's mental health, almost. You know, it was like there's something like mentally healing about just
therapeutic. I would say, you know, like about just working with the ground and like just being in nature all day, but you really feel like you're cultivating something special, and yeah, it feels like very grounding to do. And there's so many like analogies about like growing a garden, especially with bhakti, you know, like the cultivating the garden. So getting experience like that out on the farm, it kind of adds a bit more depth and understanding to those analogies as well. I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it was really nice to just see everyone come and just, you know, often, you know, the people in the temple are very regimented, and you know, it's a really good part of your sadhana, but it was nice to have everyone come and just kind of be wild and free.
Let seekers down.
Yeah. And it is true, you know, obviously there's a mixture of things, you know, everyone's coming to do service there, they're having the interactions with the devotees. But yeah, like touching soil is proven to increase your serotonin levels as well. You know, there's all these things, and it is, you know, it's a mode of goodness, but you're surrounded by the mode of goodness, so it's naturally gonna, to enthuse you. And but yeah, you're right. There's so many, like when you're working on the land, you just start to see so many lessons and like parallels to your spiritual life. Like recently, so we've been planting a lot of seeds, and when you plant a seed, you have to, in the early stages, you have to go back daily. You have to go back and water it daily. So recently we've had a lot of adverse weather conditions. We've had a few storms. We've had like minor droughts. We've had really hot weather with no rain. So if you don't go back and water the seed daily, it's going to die. You know? If you don't put it in the polytunnel away from the wind, it's going to be knocked around too much by the weather. And so similarly, you know, you look at that and you think, okay, my spiritual life, you know, we have this little Bhakti Lata beach, and we have to, especially in the early stages, you've really got to protect it. You've got to take it out of these adverse weather conditions, bring it inside, you know, look after it, go back and water it, and then the roots will become strong. And once the roots have become strong, you can take it back outside. It can have those weather conditions. It can learn to tolerate that. But yeah.
Such a good example.
It's amazing how like, that's what Prabhupada said, an analogy should have like as many similarities as possible, right? But that one just works so perfectly.
Because also what happens once it takes root and it starts to grow, then eventually, just like with the spiritual plant, then eventually you get flowers you can smell and fruits you can taste, and then you have a whole different experience, and you understand like, oh, okay, this is what it really is. You know, there's a whole sensory experience to be gained from which is literally the fruit of your efforts.
It's nice. I was thinking when we were all planting potatoes, you know, you put the potato in, and for a while it looks like nothing's happening, you know. But like under the ground, this potato is starting to sprout, and gradually it's growing. And then it comes to a point in your practice where you start to see, you know, this little shoot has popped up, and then after the shoot, it'll get tall, the flowers will come, you know, the bees will come. And yeah, they're just nice comparisons to spiritual life. Like we can see some really amazing examples around us of these spiritual practitioners they're in full bloom, you know. It's amazing. And there's some of us who are still underground and, you know, just slowly opening.
I was like one of those broccoli plants I was looking at the other day. It's like, I think this is dead. Kim was like, no, just give it a chance. You know? So sometimes like that, I think I'm dying. No, just...
Would you say those little shoots that come out are like when you start to feel taste for the activities of bhakti, or what? Like, you know, you've been practicing, your roots are spreading, and then you see something pops out of the ground. What would that be in our example, you know? What do you think?
If you're really going to get into it, I guess I mean, there's, first there's Shraddha, which would be like planting the seed. And then the watering and sunlight, like plants always need sunlight and water, right? So that's hearing and chanting about Krishna. So that's always needs to go on. But I guess roots taking, when's a plant become quite steady? Does it need?
Yeah, so normally the roots will solidify. They'll really start to take shape before the plant gets big. Because if it's too tall before the roots come, before the strength is there, it'll just get blown over in the wind,
Because they say one of the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of the sort of professors of Bhakti, he was saying, once you get to Nishta, which means you're steady. So before then, your spiritual life is usually characterized by a lot of like dealing with elements and anartha nivriti, taking out sort of negative influences within the heart.
The weeds.
Yeah. But then weeding is always going on. But when you get steady, then from there starts to be more sort of spiritual taste and the modes recede a little bit. And then you can start, sometimes, like some people don't even categorize, like that's when you really start. When you're from Nishta and onwards, when you're steady. And so Prabhupada also gives the example, like when you plant something, you need to like protect it and protect it from animals or, birds or other like, so similarly with spiritual life, you've got to really protect yourself. And like that, like we have the start of the year now, there's these campaigns, global campaigns. One was Be a Gardener campaign. Because Lord Chaitanya similarly used that example of you should be a gardener. And so you have a garden and your life is like a garden also. So you can choose, like actively choose, okay, what seeds do you want to plant? What kind of person do I want to be when I'm older? So, or in the future. So, okay, I'll start these good habits and sometimes you'll try something and it won't work, but then you put it in the compost pile. Okay, I've made a mistake, so you put it in that. And sometimes the best stuff comes from the compost, It's okay, yeah, I made a mistake. Like, if you just know where to put it, then, so your life's like that. Like even if something you think goes wrong, if you know where to categorize it, then you can actually get a lot of positive from it. And you also need to take out the weeds. And also, Lord Chaitanya said there's some weeds that look like the Bhakti Lata Beej. Yeah. They look like spiritual life. So I remember like seeing before, like, oh, that's a nice flower. And someone who knows says, no, that's a weed. So that'll kill everything else. So sometimes you think like, yeah, I'm a spiritual person, or, yeah, I'm practicing Bhakti. I do. But then if someone knows, they're like, oh, actually, no, you should get rid of that, actually. It might look like the real deal, but.
Yeah. It was a nice, Bhaktirupa was on the land recently. And
Bhaktirupa's a farmer now.
He's going on his course.
He's full-time now.
Yeah,
I dedicate my life to this. I've been on a farm 3 days. This is my life.
He made a nice point. So our piece of land, we're surrounded by all these fields and we can weed our field really nicely. But then if the field directly next door to us is covered in weeds, when they go to seed, they'll blow onto our field. So it's really important with that, who you're associating with. If you can be looking after yourself, but then if you're associating with XYZ person, they're going to have that. They're going to sow seeds in you as well. So,
wow.
Good fences make good neighbors sometimes, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And we had to do that. We had to make these nets around
cherry trees.
Cherry trees, yeah. We had to like net it or not, and then pull a net over the top to stop like the birds from coming, and I guess they just steal the fruit eventually or something, is it?
Yeah, they'll like eat it all before it's ripe. So yeah.
How's the lunar cycle affecting it?
Kenny was talking about that as well.
Yeah, it's not my kind of expertise, but there's like biodynamic farming, which you plant vegetables and flowers in accordance to the lunar cycle. So in the same way, like we follow Ekadashi in the Bhakti practice, and there's lots of reasons we follow that. You look at like the spiritual reasons, but there's also a reason with the pull of the moon affecting your body more at that time of the month, because you fast from grains because grains hold so much water. That's one more of the kind of health reasons rather than the spiritual reason. But so if your body is not holding more water, the moon will have less of an effect on you.
That's why you even dry fast sometimes in Ekadashi.
Yeah.
I never knew.
Yeah,
I read about,
interesting.
just a quick story, I read about Ekadashi this morning, Nectar Devotion, how Ekadashi is one of the impetuses that inspires ecstasy and love for Krishna. There's different things that like, when you like hear about it or think about it or it happens, then, there's a love spike and it inspires you. So Ekadashi is one of those things. Anyway.
But yeah, Vedically we look at like the lunar cycles. We don't, mostly we don't give it too much attention, but they say like, for example, if you want to grow really long hair, generally the girls will do this, then you cut your hair on a new moon because the growth of like the cycles of growth in life are stronger. The moon is going to grow to the full moon. It's growing quickly. Whereas if you want short hair as a man, for example, you want to shave up, you don't want it to grow back quickly, you'll cut it on a full moon.
Is it?
So that it's the moon is at its fullest then, so it's actually declining. It's getting smaller after that. So
how much of a difference does it make?
It's something that if you do regularly, it kind of shows a little bit more. But yeah. Anyway, the theory of like Rudolf Steiner, like the Steiner schools, this biodynamic farming is. Again, I don't know so much about it, but whichever sign is rising at that time, like Aries is in this house or something, then this might be a flower day, this might be a fire day. This is the ideal day to plant your flowers, and it's like when we get our astrology done, you see what time is auspicious for doing a particular activity. In the same way, you can do that with any aspect of life, whether it's like growing fruit or harvesting or anything.
That's another thing about growing, like you're much more in touch with the synchronicity of everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're more in touch with like Śrīla Swami was saying the other day about how like global warming and its effects. And he was saying, some people obviously, but he's saying like in Hungary, for example, they haven't had snow. Or as much snow, so their winters aren't as cold. I don't think the winters are as cold here now as they used to be. So that's affected. So that cold winter would kill off certain bacteria that doesn't get killed off, and now that eats their crops, and now they have to completely plant different crops, and it has like a real effect. I was just quoting on astrology because the synchronicity of everything. Because someone was saying, so astrology is like. Because there was some Chinese mystic that would do it, but that would be able to like predict things by seeing the way the cherry blossoms fall on the ground. And people use things like reading tea leaves, and because it's actually the principle of if you know the way it's mapped out, it's the synchronicity of everything. And because the planets are the most stable and they're the most like sort of regulated and you can pinpoint, then it's the best way to understand the sort of synchronicity of the clockwork of like everything that's going on around us. I think it's a science that's completely lost today.
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting. Like you're talking about Shivram Maharaj, and when you live on land like they do in Hungary, you really start to notice what's going on outside. Like I lived on this piece of land in Caerphilly, and the only water source was a spring. And 3 years ago, it was the first time that the people who lived on the land had ever seen the spring dry up. And, we might say, it's really rainy in Wales. It's, it's horrible. But for 3 years, we've had a drought, like the summer, we've had months of no rain. And, for people growing for the life of the planet, it's quite hard to sustain that. So, it's nice to see what's going on around. And
rain is a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like when people are talking about global warming in the UK, maybe in a few years, someone predict, I don't know how true it is, someone predicted we'll have the same climate as Jamaica. And I'd be like, that's great. What's the problem? But everyone just thinks their food comes from Tesco's and
I have a friend, he said it's supposed to be like the sea is rising and it's supposed to rise X amount in like 10 years and it's supposed to be like right outside his house. He was like, yeah, it's great. It'll be like Costa del Risca, Okay.
Bring it on. Keep going, China.
One thing I remember reading in Prabhupada's books, he was explaining that when mankind relied on the rain cycle and relied on growing food and agriculture, then they were far more conscious that their existence depends on a higher power, because there's the shloka in the Gita, how the process of rain, how it comes, and like you mentioned just then, Devamrita Swami made that point that we're so disconnected from the natural world. We think that rubbish just goes in the bin and then it disappears, and that food comes from Tesco and water just comes from the tap, and all these different places in the house, but there's such a disconnection with where that actually is coming from or where it's actually going. And
that's another thing Devamrita Swami said, how he said in the 70s when they were trying to teach the Bhagavad-gītā to people, they were trying to, when Krishna was saying grains come from rains, and rains come performance of duty, and you're pleasing the devatas. He said, we're trying convince people of this point. He said, today you got to convince them that grains come from rains before you get to the next point.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to help on the farm, volunteer, I guess you got the person to contact, is it?
Yeah, definitely.
Send a message to Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Yeah, for sure. We need all the help we can get. We've just got this land, so we're really trying our best to we're producing foods. We're going to produce food for the deities. We're going to produce food for our Food for Life project. Hopefully the cafes and the community. So the more hands we can have, the better. And we really appreciate it. So
I'm just going to read, we will finish on this. This is a little quote from Prabhupada. Oh, wait there now. Now we must take to agricultural work, produce food and give protection to the cows. And if we produce a surplus, we can trade. It is a simple thing that we must do. Our people should live peacefully in farming villages, produce grain and fruit and vegetables, protect the cows and work hard. And if there is a surplus, we can start restaurants. Krishna conscious people will never be losers by following the instructions of Krishna. They will live comfortably without any material want. And tyaktvā janma, naiti. After leaving this body, they will go directly back to the spiritual world. That is our way of life.
Jai.
Well, thank you, Kim.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bhakti. Bhakti is going to go to Leicester to learn some farming. You did an amazing breakfast this morning.
oh, it was amazing.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Nama Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Pachatyaja Satarini Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Nama Namaste Saraswati Devam